help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. And she just came out. She told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Shawn Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Shawn Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. Happy Thanksgiving! This is coming out the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. This is our annual Thanksgiving fried turkey podcast that will include what we are grateful for and some of the challenges that we have ahead of us this Thanksgiving in the pro-life movement. We have joked for many years, falsely, we just learned, that this podcast, we're saying because of the timing, the downloads don't exactly set records because we do every holiday season. We just, people are busy. They don't have time to listen to the 40 Days for Life podcast. So the numbers are typically not impressive. They're not like the worst, but the Fried Turkey podcast doesn't really get downloaded as much as our other ones, except for last year. We're the Fried Turkey podcast, where I believe we talked about fried turkey more specifically and less pro-life stuff last year than any other year. I'm sure that had nothing to do with it. Last year, we had a legit thousands of people were downloading this podcast. And so this, we will go to a whole new level because this podcast, I think we've done it for 5 or 6 years. We will have Robert on in a moment because he's not grateful. They don't celebrate Thanksgiving, which is understandable. They don't have a lot to be thankful for in England. But this podcast, we've actually gotten a lot of requests for what I put into the fried turkey. So we're going to cover that briefly, like what exactly is, how do you make a fried turkey? Very easy. And you will never go back to putting this thing in the oven. I mean, water is going to be cleaner. Air will seem fresher. Your life will be, you will not view the turkey as a creation of God the same once you have fried your turkey and consumed. So joining me on this very important podcast is Mr. Steve Carlin. Steve, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Shawn. I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this recording all year long.
Steve was depressed on Valentine's Day because it wasn't Thanksgiving yet. We had to talk about other things. And of course, we are joined by Robert Cahoon from London, England. Robert, welcome back.
Well, it's great to be back on and to talk about Shawn torturing turkeys with his special ingredients. And I'm sure the Royal Society, the Protection for Animals, would have a great interest in the ingredients of your Thanksgiving turkey. I'm sure they wouldn't be happy with what you do to the turkeys.
Yes, I don't. This is an anti-PETA podcast. I think we've had a few like that, actually. But Robert and I were just in Mexico. That was awesome, Robert. We trained hundreds of leaders throughout Latin America. We had our Latin American conference in Mexico City. It's always awesome. Food was amazing as usual in Mexico, but even better, the people and the enthusiasm that we have in Latin America, Robert. It was just awesome. And of course, that's been a big part of the growth of 40 Days for Life.
Yeah, this conference was fantastic. Over 250 people there, pretty much from every single Latin American country, and they know how to party. That's for sure. They
and thankfully I escaped for that part because who knows what was going to go on.
And there is great food in Latin America, but it's a homogenous zone. They've got the same language, the same culture, Spanish speaking, and so 40 Days for Life is spread all across South America, Central America. In Mexico, there's 100 campaigns. There's 67 campaigns in Colombia. So really inspiring by the number of the quality and the number of campaigns in Latin America. And there's such great people that are so welcoming, and I was inspired and enthused by being there. And it's certainly our European conference. We've got a lot to learn on just the enthusiasm, the joy, and the partying of the Latin Americans. So we need to get the Europeans as enthusiastic partying as the Latins. That's for sure. But we also visited the Guadalupe Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe on the Sunday, which is one of the most important Marian shrines in the whole world. You know, just the conversions that happened. Conversions happen related to that story is absolutely amazing. So the devotion of the Mexican people, there's 50,000 people that visit the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe every single day. That's 18 million people a year. Wow. Just the place was absolutely packed, heaving, and they had sort of Aztec style traditional Mexican dress dancing going on just outside the basilica, which was extremely picturesque and beautiful. So beautiful country, beautiful people, just like, wow, you know, it just shows what prayer can do. And the campaign's enormous. It's spread everywhere, all over Latin America. So I'm really inspired being there, and take the love back to Europe and see, you know, if we can emulate some of their results and stories back in Europe to the same degree. We'd be doing extremely well.
Yeah, it was just awesome. And I have a humiliating report. The section of this podcast, I think we've had it a few times, a segment called Shawn Carney is an Idiot. And we'll now be entering that section of the podcast. So as hopefully many of you know, we did file our lawsuit, our notice of claim against the DOJ. Go watch that video on YouTube if you have not seen that. We did it on behalf of Mark Houck. So long time in the making, been working on this for months. It kept getting pushed back, all the lawyer stuff. Anyways, finally arrived where we could release this thing. And got great media coverage, continue to get great media coverage. It's been awesome on all those fronts. However, it was somewhat funny, and Matt and I were laughing about basically the way the timing worked out. We filed against the DOJ and then left the country for Mexico. And it literally, like, you could just see us in court going, that's just the way the schedule worked out, you know, Judge. But it really was. However, I took it to a new level because, as you gentlemen know, I enjoy an occasional cigar. So I bought Cuban cigars in Mexico, very cheap. And Trump and all our Obama, the only good thing he did was lift the embargo with Cuba. It's the only good thing he did as president, in my opinion. Well, he killed bin Laden. So two great things. So you could bring like 100 Cuban cigars back per person, okay, which is plenty. So I bought a box of cigars. And I come back in the U.S. and I'm in Houston going through customs, and the guy goes, they asked in Mexico, do I declare any like food and liquor and all that? And I said, no. So then when I got to the US, they said the same thing, but they added tobacco. And I said, yes. And they said, what'd you bring? I said, Cuban cigars. And they said, oh, well, why would you do that? I said, enthusiastically, because I'm going to smoke them. And I'm having a lot of people over for Thanksgiving. And if somebody wants one, and they're like, okay. So they call Bob over or whoever. So this other agent, they said, you got to go in the back. So I thought that it was because I didn't mention it in Mexico that they had to like check them out in the States and then let me go. So I have to go to this other section at Homeland Security in the Bush Airport in Houston. And I walk back and the guy says, so what do you declare? What do you have? I said, Cuban cigars. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, they were cheap. Like, I'm just talking like, this guy's my uncle. Totally naive. And he goes, that's illegal. Which I didn't know. I said, but Obama lifted the embargo. And he goes, and Trump reinstated it. So probably to help secure the Cuban vote in Florida, because they all hate Cuba and want nothing to do with Cuba, so that worked. Trump did very good among Cubans in Florida. So I said, well, what do we do? And he said, you can, get all formal. You can do the fine. I was like, how much is the fine? It's like $500. I'm like, I'm not doing that. He said, okay, well, I said, can I just throw them away? He said, no, you have to destroy them in front of us. Which is kind of dramatic. Like, you have to destroy them. I wanted to ask, does that include smoking them? Because they're destroyed.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those slang things. Like, man, we destroyed those cigars last night.
We
with the
crushed
TSA
those.
guys.
Yeah. Can I just light up in the airport? So it was really, really funny. They were, all the Homeland Security agents were laughing, I think, because they saw my enthusiasm, because they were like, this guy actually had no clue. And so we're sitting there, and they're in these individual tubes. So I'm taking them out. I'm crushing them. Thank God I bought cheap Cubans, because otherwise you're like, what a total waste. So I'm like shredding these cigars in the trash can, and they're just sitting there talking to me. They asked what I did. I told them all about the conference. They're like, that's awesome. Y'all went down to Latin America and you're training people like on pro-life stuff. Like, that's so cool. So it was this kind of fun experience. Nobody else was in there. So I had all of Homeland Security to myself, which doesn't sound like something you would want. But yeah, it was very, very funny. And Mary Lisa was cracking up, because it's just, I'm just like, jickety wickers, I bought cigars. Ain't that cool? And they're like, all right, you got to come back here. All right, you got to sit there, all this stuff. And there will be Homeland Security guys making jokes about me at Thanksgiving. And I totally understand. So just a complete ding dong. But
did I say Cuban cigars? I meant Dominicans.
It's like somewhere south of here. I don't know. I think it was an island. I'm not sure. I asked them, and I said, because people are giving me Cubans all the time, like random people. And I said, oh, people, they just lie. And the guys go, yeah. Like, they just don't. Do you have any tobacco? No. That's it. That's how they get them in the country.
So one year there's a wall being built between USA and Mexico, and the next thing is it's an open border. So it's hard to keep up with border politics in the USA, and whether that's to keep the Americans in or to keep the Mexicans out. I'm not sure what the purpose of the wall is, but now suddenly there's a completely different policy, and now you're getting difficult time getting back into the USA.
Yeah, Shawn, you're the only guy in the world who can't get something across the border.
I know. I should have just, yeah, there's a lot we could say right now. But yeah, that definitely crossed my mind. Also, just, it's personal for a lot of presidents. Obama was a big smoker. He loves cigars. So hey, he'll lift the embargo. Trump, not a smoker. Doesn't like anybody but America. So forget Cuba. So you can understand both sides. But the fact that Trump probably did this in like 2018, and I haven't brought Cubans over since Obama was president. That's what I realized. I think the last time I did it was 2016, when I was over. I think I was with you, Robert, and I brought some Cubans back. It was no big deal. But then Trump changed it. So, anyways, how time flies. I thought that was funny, and it was really, I'm just an idiot, as we mentioned earlier. Okay, so
one of the restrictions of being an American citizen is not having the liberty to bring Cuban cigars back to your country.
Here we go.
Yes.
So much for freedom.
Of all the things we've complained about, it's so hard to do 40 Days for Life now in America. It's hard in England. And on top of that, you can't even bring Cubans into the country. Okay, so Steve, we've gotten some interest with the fried turkey situation, so I'll just kind of go through this. But before I get into it, Steve, are you going to fry your turkey this year? Or are you stuck in your stubbornness and arrogance?
Oh, no, there's no arrogance here. This is a case where Laura and I, my wife Laura and I, have declared that we are going to host, anyone is in our family is welcome for Christmas. They're welcome for Easter. We're not going anywhere. And then the bone that we throw our families is we travel for Thanksgiving. So we'll be, I think this is the in-laws year with Thanksgiving.
Okay, that's right. So I'm sure Mama Carlin is listening, but this is the great checking of the box.
The great checking of the box. One of these years, though, Shawn, I'm gonna come Cousin Eddie style with an RV, and I'm gonna show up at your house at Thanksgiving when you got like 100 people over, and you will not be more surprised than if you woke up with your head stapled to the carpet.
Yeah, Steve, outside of my house. Well, if you should just leave now, because that is this year. That's a good segue, actually. I don't know if we're gonna have quite 100, but we're we won't have 100 people, but we are. I can't add it up just on the fly because of kids. There's a lot of kids coming, which is great. Everybody's pro-life and has a lot of kids, including myself. But we have started the last couple of years is basically if you don't have anywhere to go, we know people from church, we know people from the kids' schools and all this. So if you don't have anywhere to go, last year we had a Mexican family that was not going back to Mexico, so they came over. We've had a lot of people who just don't have anywhere to go. And then we also have a lot of clergy. We have some priests, we have some seminarians. So we're hosting a lot of people in addition to my family, Mary Lisa's family, and there's another random group coming. I can't remember. Hopefully they don't listen to this, but we're going to have a lot of people. So this is the year, Steve, that you could sneak down here. I wouldn't, or anybody who listens to the podcast, I just wouldn't even notice. So what that means, gentlemen, is that I will be frying 3 20-pound turkeys, a whopping 60 pounds of fried turkey. God bless America.
So those who got in on the vegetable oil futures market 6 months ago are living large off of that investment right now, because that's going to take a lot of oil.
Well, Steve, this is the apologetic section, and that's a good start. It is not it is not vegetable oil. It is peanut oil.
Oh,
that is what you fry turkeys in. Okay, is peanut oil and a buttload of it. So the cleaning of the fryer is depressing, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I clean mine like the next day, so with like a water hose, and I mean, I'm out in the lawn, neighbors are watching. It's like deep root. My East Texas roots are coming out when I clean the turkey fryer. So you use peanut oil. There's 3 turkeys, so I've always done the regular turkey. The regular turkey. Here we go. Tony Chachere's. It's everywhere. It's great. It's Cajun seasoning. Awesome. This is the rub that I put on the turkey on. I may do Tuesday night. I may do, with the day that this podcast comes out. Probably do tonight. I'll do it. They're thawed by now. And then I'm inserting, this is the kid turkey. This isn't spicy. It's just tasty. I'm inserting it with Cajun butter, and there's actually a needle that is in there, and you just inject the butter in the turkey, and you have the seasoning. I shove the seasoning up the rear of the bird. Everybody knows
the cavity.
The
That's a nice way to say it, right?
Save the neck for me, Clark. So that's just that's good. You just do that at your house. It's awesome.
What's a needle look like?
Let's open it up here, actually. Gotta have my
this is like the Jose Canseco of turkeys here.
This is like Barry Bonds meets Kurt Cobain. This is like the needle of all needles.
You're just pulling out a knife, you're hacking into it. Those who are listening right now are missing some glorious visual.
Excellent time to join the video.
Unwrap the syringe. It's exactly as you described it.
It's a little creepy. So we have a few little kids that refuse to watch me prep the turkeys because
I'm not surprised.
have like nightmares. So check that bad boy
Viewer
out.
discretion is advised.
Check that out.
Wow.
See, I'm going to do to the turkeys what the DOJ has been doing to 40 Days for Life. So it's a little bit of revenge. But this is just so.
Did the turkeys consent to any of this treatment?
No, they're oblivious. So I'll show you how much. This is a lot. So when you do it we've had a lot of people asking me just how to do this. So I'm not going to get too detailed, waste time, but you'll start to see the butter come out of the other holes that the syringe has created. Does that make sense? Yes. So you start poking it, and it gets, the skin starts bubbling out, and you can do it. I've done it with a 12-pound turkey. I've done it with 22-pound turkey. So you'll start to see it overflow. Okay. So I'm going to give you a trick. So you inject it first with the butter. Then you get paper towels and you dry the skin of the turkey. Then you add this on the outside because it's a rub.
That's the Tony's Creole rub there for those who are listening to audio? Okay.
Yes. The Tony Chatry. So that goes on the outside. You wrap it in saran wrap. You put it in the refrigerator. And then all you'll do from there is literally stick it in the turkey fryer.
This gets more eccentric every year. I mean, it just goes
well,
to
no.
level.
What we have just covered is the PG part of frying turkeys because we're about to escalate.
There's more.
Is there a warning on the syringe where it's like use only for turkey, not for human use? Because living in Wisconsin, I know some people who I think would probably be the ones that inject themselves with the butter.
Only in America.
No, they have no. All it says, it just says how to get the seasoning in there. At the very end, keep away from children. That's it. No, like, don't stab yourself. So this is from Louisiana. This is great stuff. Okay.
This is the children's turkey is out of the way now. Now we're getting to adult.
Yeah. And we'll have maybe we'll have some Northerners like you, even though you would eat the spicy stuff, Steve. But this is like, dang, this is awesome turkey. You put gravy on it. So this is, everybody likes it. Easy.
There's going to be some children who are allergic to peanut oil, surely.
Yeah. So then there's this is technically Cajun, but then we're up in the spice, Steve and Robert. So we still have this. I have 3 of these. So this goes in every turkey.
Sorry, which one is that?
The
those who
butter.
are listening.
Yeah,
okay.
The butter. Yeah,
injectable
the butter. You need one big butter for every turkey. So this goes in, but for the rub and a little bit of stuffing. And there was a controversial email because in addition to what I'm going to show you, I also stuffed this turkey with crushed red pepper.
Oh,
now the reason for that is because the bad thing about turkey is it sucks and it doesn't usually taste good and it's dense and it's dry. And that's why we only eat it once a year. Okay. So that's the disclaimer. Nobody actually nobody's like working in their lawn, like at 2:00 in the afternoon on May 27th. And like, man, I could really use a good chunk of turkey. Nobody says that. It's not brisket. It's not ribs. So the good thing about that is you can fire a turkey up with seasoning and it's just going to taste good. Like the density of the meat numbs it. Of course, the oil of the deep fryer just makes it juicy. But it's not like, if you looked at what I put in this next turkey, you'd be like, I'm not tasting that. And when you smell it, when I'm fixing it the night before, it's just like amazing. All right. So the butter goes in. And then my favorite, slap ya mama hot. There's regular slap ya mama, but this is slap ya mama hot. And you know that, Steve. See, I've got both. See, one's red. Isn't that sophisticated?
Yes.
This is the original. And if I get carried away, I may throw this on the kids' turkey. But this is the hot. So this is my rub. And then I put crushed red pepper, slap ya mama, in turkey number 2.
I like the insinuation that you have not already. What do you say if I feel like going crazy or going overboard or whatever? That has not happened yet. Not until you put it on the kids' turkey.
I'm actually not done with turkey number 2.
Good.
In addition, what's coming,
to us,
baby. You know what's coming. In addition to injecting it with the butter, so the butter's like flowing everywhere, I will then inject a bottle of Texas Pete hot sauce into turkey number 2. So we're here today. So we've got the butter, Tony Chatry's, slap ya mama, and crushed red pepper. I didn't bring the crushed red pepper. Mary Lisa thinks I'm a lunatic. I brought this in the office. Slap ya mama, and then Texas Pete. This is the actual bottle that I will use, Steve. But I'll put it in the next turkey too. So I'll only do half. You actually couldn't inject this in one turkey because this is the big bottle, and I mean it would just be flowing everywhere. So then it's a lot of work. So then you inject it, and it's again flowing everywhere. You dry it, and then you add your slap your mama to the outside. So what does this do? The fried turkey skin with slap your mama is going to be one of the best things you've ever consumed in your life.
What color is it by the time you're done?
Like, what does it look like?
Yeah, as it comes out of the fryer, like, is it normal turkey color, or is this like blazing red?
I'll send last year's. I always send you a picture, typically. I'll send last year's. It looks delicious. I mean, it's a fried turkey. I don't.
Okay.
But I'll send some pictures from previous years. I'll actually send pictures of the preparation of it too, because I do like the night before or 2 days before, whenever I prepare it, and then what it looks like afterwards. It's so good.
So that first one. Go ahead, Robert.
Go ahead, Robert.
How many children were traumatized by witnessing this turkey torture last year? I mean,
everybody.
What was the fallout?
Okay, so obviously if you're ranking it, the coolest thing ever is Declan, because he's an 8-year-old boy, so he thinks it's the coolest thing ever. And I fry the turkeys obviously outside on a porch, and just so I don't have to deal with rain, to show like we get a little bit of the trailer park going on, because I lay down like old towels all over my porch, because in case the grease spills or whatever. So we have like these multicolored towels. Mary Lisa can't even look at it. It's a glorious scene. So we have all these towels, and then I've got a couple of chairs. I'm usually with my brother-in-law, who's at the same time smoking a ham. And so it's kind of a spread. And you want to obviously keep kids away from it, you know. Robert, you always bring this up every year. You haven't yet, but people are like, that's unsafe to fry a turkey. It's really pretty basic. As long as the thing is thawed out, you're good. All these morons on YouTube are sticking a frozen turkey into a turkey fryer and blowing themselves up. Yeah, if you do that, it's bad. But I mean, overall, I've never had an issue. I don't leave it unmanned. But, you know, we're going to get up and we have to go to mass, and then we have to go to mass. We're going to mass. And then when I get home, I'll start heating the oil, because I got to do 3. It takes about an hour and 10 minutes per turkey, because I have big turkeys. Okay. So we got the regular butter one. Oh, go ahead, Robert.
Do you not have turkey for Christmas? Because we have turkey for Christmas here.
No, we have steak.
Oh, wow. Okay. So luckily the turkeys are not getting doubly tortured.
Yeah.
Population would be down too much.
I would love to do turkey. Mary Lisa's family had this tradition that they always had steak, and so we've just done that. It's usually my mother-in-law is cooking steaks. I would love to do fried turkey twice a year. I think that would be a marriage problem, personally, if I could guess, because Mary Lisa loves the fried turkey. She loves that I'm into the fried turkey, but she's like, we have it once a year and I'm good. So, okay. So, gentlemen, I've usually done 2 turkeys. The kid one,
no, and,
then and then the spot. But with the increase in the attendance, there was room for an experimental turkey in 2023.
Ooh, the lab. Getting into
the lab. We're going to the lab. So it's gonna have these 2. All right, we're gonna have the butter. We're gonna have Texas Pete. Okay. But Steve, Robert, I'm going back to my roots. If I can experiment, I've got to go Mexican.
Ooh.
I've got to go across the border. And that brings in, God bless him, Conrico jalapeno rub, baby.
No.
This is what I'm going to stuff turkey number 3 with, and put the rub on the outside. And this, it's even labeled hot and spicy. There's actually a warning on this one. It's great. This is where you separate the men from the boys. Okay. And I've used this once on another food item that will remain nameless. It's delicious. I think it's going to go great with the turkey. And although I may receive commentary when I'm in the kitchen and somebody sees this, I almost want to take the label off. I was thinking of doing that, because I know Mary Lisa's going to comment like, that's too spicy. Because what's going to happen is the family members will be like, don't mix them up. You need to tell us which one's the spicy and which one's the regular. And I have a system for that. But I'm very excited about this. And look at that. It's gluten-free, Steve.
Oh, excellent.
So you may die after consuming too much. But, there's no gluten.
I was going to say, is there enough places at the Houston hospital should things go wrong?
Dehydration will be a major problem for those attending Thanksgiving at my house. My goal is to have somebody say, this is too spicy. And I don't think we're going to get to that point because I think most people will wuss out and they'll just, if they're nervous, they'll get the one. But I will do the Texas Pete in that one, and I'll do the jalapeno, and I'll do the crushed red pepper, and that should create a little bit of that should create quite the spice. It's also funny, guys, as we're into this already, how different it is between the white meat and the dark meat. Just how the seasonings.
Are you a white meat or a dark meat guy?
I'm actually a white meat guy. Although, like for this, that dark meat with the jalapeno is going to be very hot. It's just not as dense. It's fattier. But the white meat. so Robert asked, like, what freaks people out when I cut the two with Texas Pete. It's got a little like you're watching Braveheart. I mean, you cut into the white breasts and it opens up and like the red hot sauce starts pouring everywhere. It's it's awesome.
You know, we used to make things in this country and we used to explore things and we used to take risks, and people went into space and they they built great bridges, and sometimes there were sacrifices to be made in the process, and you are reopening that great tradition of American risk taking. You don't know what's going to happen. This is the experimental turkey from your turkey lab, and we'll see what happens. But there are heroes who are going to find out.
I did not realize that turkeys could be racially profiled now. Is this how eccentric America
Robert, everything is about race now.
Even the turkeys have race.
I'm sure we're going to get canceled just because I'm frying a turkey. That's somehow going to be racist. But you know what's cool about that? I appreciate your comments, Steve. Fried turkey, I mean, I had it as a kid at one of the Thanksgivings. We never did it ourselves, but I remember like the Knights of Columbus selling fried turkeys. It's a common thing in Texas. And what I'm surprised about is how many people we have at our house every year that say they've never had it. And by the way, everyone likes it. This isn't just me saying I love fried turkey. Everybody's like, who hasn't had it loves it. And everybody who's had it expects it. And everybody loves the spicy one too. Because it's not spicy. Like everybody listening, you'd eat it and you'd be like, this is just super flavorful. It's got a little kick, especially if you get some skin. But this, we're basically doing boring Cajun, in my opinion, but good. Spicy Cajun and Mexico. So
this is now so eccentric. I mean, next year you're going to be growing your own turkeys, like have everyone pick the turkey at the beginning, still alive, like a lobster pot. Like it's getting so eccentric. Like,
you have to walk up to my yard and point to, all right, I want gobble.
Yeah, this is getting really bonkers. I'm sure Marilyse is going to have to rein this in at some point.
Like, yeah, I think, and she loves the fried turkey. And she's glad that I do it because she doesn't have to. Like, if I said I hate fried turkey or I don't want to cook it, well, then like I don't know how to do it in the oven. Yeah, she's super happy. But I've never done 3 in a row. I'm very excited. And as we close out on this, Steve, here's the wild card. Okay, here's what I'm thinking, and this goes to all of our excellent, amazing 40 Days for Life volunteers in the great state of Wisconsin. I fry the 3 turkeys. Okay. Like 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Here's what I'm thinking about, and I haven't decided. We're recording this about a week before Thanksgiving. All the grease, guys, is going to have all this stuff in it. It's going to be glorious. Steve, I'm thinking about just getting some frozen chicken wings, thawing them out, and just tossing them in the fryer for like 10 minutes after I fried the turkeys and soaking up all the Texas Pete, all the Cajun butter, all the slap your mama, and all the jalapeno.
I think you owe it to humanity to do that, frankly.
Here's the way I see it. You know, you have to, like, if you're a ultra marathoner, right? You're running like 100-mile race. You have to qualify. Okay. You have to do like a practice run on some of them. So you have to run 100 miles under a certain time. I feel like the wings would be like running the 100 miles and then going 10 extra miles just to show that you're ready.
Yeah, this is great because, when you pull this type of stuff and you're getting the Mexican stuff and you're injecting with the hot sauce, there's always going to be some negative person in your life who's saying, I don't think you should do that. And you don't need that type of negativity in your life, and you don't need it at Thanksgiving. You have entered true mad scientist territory where people aren't saying, I don't think you should do that. They're saying, like, are you sure about that? Are you sure you want to do that? And Shawn, let me be the one to tell you, anyone who suggests even tapping the brakes is wrong, and you need to go full bore ahead and do this. And it's like when they started that particle collider or whatever with a nuclear physicist, and they're like, there's a chance this might end the world. We don't know. Your turkey might end the world, but we have to find out.
It's the idea that we have the grease sitting there after 3.5 hours of frying, and we got the 3 turkeys. I'm sure there will be social pressure to come inside and to start eating and all that stuff. But I can take care of that with some heavy appetizers. So we get everybody kind of fed, because when the grease is there, it's just going to have all this stuff in it. It's going to be glorious. And I'm never going to be able to recreate that at another time of the year. If we had some chicken wings.
Yeah,
something.
forget about artificial intelligence. This is the true question of, like, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And I'm saying, yes, you should.
And here's why I've convinced myself as we were recording this podcast that I am doing this. There is one person who will 100% back me up and is guaranteed if I don't do it, they'll think of it later in the day. Like, why didn't you do this? And that is my wonderful father-in-law. So
yeah,
I am guaranteed the full endorsement of Mary Lisa's dad. And
which makes you safe with her. I did this for you, honey. This is your dad. I wanted to make him happy on the holidays.
I mean, we're hosting your parents, geez, he wanted wings. Yeah, I can put it all back on him. And, but that's kind of like, yeah, that's just having like the sheriff on your side. So, I think I'll do it. If you could care to give me any feedback, you can email us.
You could use the lard to light your fire for the next 10 years, probably.
It's going to be like those cities in Pennsylvania where, like, the mining towns where a fire started in the mine in the 50s and it hasn't gone out yet. That's going to be this deep fryer.
Here's what will help this podcast downloads, which I think we're going to have a great year. If Thanksgiving comes and goes and then we report that I burned my entire house down as a result of frying the turkeys, that's what makes this like the greatest podcast ever, because people, you got to go back and watch it or listen to it and go, this guy's just walking off a cliff and he has no idea.
There's going to be people who hear the tragic story. Someone did this in Texas. They burned their house down, and it was like, oh my gosh, I got to get to the TV. Is it Shawn? Where's the phone? Where's the computer?
It's definitely him. He shouldn't have done the wings. Quit while you're ahead. Oh my gosh. So if you have any questions, thanks for all the inquiries. Hopefully this was helpful, and we'll put some pictures up, and I hope everybody enjoys their turkeys. Okay, really quick. Now we're getting to the topic at hand. Okay, so all this negativity's out there. People need fried turkey. We're going to talk about Ohio, but all this bad stuff, there's nothing to be grateful for, but there's tons to be grateful for. And we made a little short list because you may encounter, as you do in What to Say When, an uncle at Thanksgiving. Maybe a little pro-abortion. And so if you haven't read What to Say When, this podcast comes out on Tuesday, so you have 24 hours or 48 hours. Here's talking point number 1, because Ohio will come up. The end of the world will come up. The elections will come up. We are grateful for abortion-free states. And right now, there are 7 states that have protected abortion since Roe, and there are 23 that are either abortion-free or highly regulated abortion, and that just gets lost.
Yeah, we see Kentucky. The stats are out for Kentucky after the Dobbs decision. The number of abortions went down to almost 0. Once in a while, I guess they find a way that there's an exception they can do an abortion. You'll see 1 this month, 2 the next month, 0 the next month. But we're under 5 a month. We're under 3 a month in Kentucky. And again, some of those women are perhaps going to neighboring states, but many of them are not. And similarly, if you want the proof in the pudding, look at the birth rate. This is where we see the great work done by the state of Texas, which really kind of got a head start on Dobbs with the Heartbeat Act, which went into effect even before the Dobbs decision. And in the months after that, if you factor in the amount of time it took to complete gestation and the baby to be born, the number of births in Texas going up 10,000 in the last 9 months of 2022. That is the proof in the pudding, and that is the thing that we really can be grateful about is a lot of little boys and girls who are alive and well today. In spite of all the negativity in Ohio and Kansas and some of these states that have taken votes, every single one of those babies is a huge, huge, priceless, irreplaceable victory.
Yeah, that just gets lost. Go ahead, Robert.
What's so inspiring is, it's the bad news is so often portrayed in the media, but it's the good news that often isn't. And I'm sure in juxtaposition, having pro-life states against the extreme pro-abortion states over time, this kind of discrepancy can't stand. So in Europe, to hear how many states are actually pro-life is deeply inspiring, and it also a great sense of hope. So the many pro-life stories that are not covered by the media, some of the great blessings from Texas, from the states you just mentioned, they're a deep source of encouragement, and often these are not covered in the media. So it's it's the good news that's often not covered by the media. That's what we need to focus on.
Yeah, and the reality is we're not dependent on politicians to dictate what we do in our own neighborhoods. And Steve, you're really good about these referendums and keeping them in perspective, because the fear, I think it's legit, is that are the pro-abortion folks just going to go around to all these states? I mean, if they can get this through in Ohio, not some subtle pro-life law, but a law that allows a minor to have an abortion at 40 weeks without their mom knowing, without no parental consent. You get a crazy law in Ohio. Should we fear, Steve, they're just going to march around and do all these referendums and that's going to be the end of the world?
I mean, yes and no. We should fear that they're going to do it. We need to be prepared for it. We need people in the political realm to get their canvassing together and to stop these referenda that are legalizing abortion in various states. But is it the end of the world? No, it's certainly not the end of the world. We live in this sort of myopic generation. I don't know if it's Twitter, social media, whatever it is, but we look at everything that happens right now as like the last word on things, as though we have reached the end of history. People have spoken and abortion is going to sweep the nation. And that is a silly way to look at it. And it's frankly a not historical way to look at it. If you take a look at the counterpart to our movement, the LGBT movement, which we spent a lot of time talking about this year, they lost 32 straight referenda to legalize same-sex marriage. 32 straight they lost. And you didn't
Two in California.
Yeah. And you didn't see like the Democrat strategists or the progressive, the liberal strategists. They didn't come out saying, okay, guys, I think we need to back off of this issue. We need to recognize that we're out of touch with the electorate. No, they went full steam ahead. They barreled through. They went through the turkeys and they went straight to the chicken wings, and they refused to back off. And the result that we've seen then is since 2012, they've just rolled through America. And now we have same-sex so-called marriage legal in all 50 states. The Supreme Court did that in 2015. There's a lot going on there. They didn't get discouraged by these 32 straight losses. We're nowhere near 32 straight losses. This is something that we're in for the long run. It would have been great if the overturning of Roe v. Wade would have ushered in this great, now everybody respects life and it's all over. But it was never going to be like that. 100 years after the Civil War, things had improved from slavery, obviously, but you're still dealing with Jim Crow and the Civil Rights Act to restore voting rights and all of these different things. It takes time. It's messy. And we need to not lose sight of the fact that Dobbs didn't win this for us. It gave us the opportunity to have the fight. And one of these days, we're going to win one of these referenda, and then all bets are off. We're going to see the tide turn, and it's not going to be even. Progress is not linear, but progress is real. It is taking place in our midst, and we can't get discouraged when we have a bad election or two.
Well, in the United Kingdom, we have 4 volunteers have had fines from the police. Becoming pro-life thought has become a crime. We've had more persecution than ever before, and the more we're getting persecuted, the more badges of honor we can hand out to those who've taken a stand for that. But at some point, there's a tipping point. At some point, this ends, and at some point, people really start engaging with the topic, start debating it in a much more public way. And having traveled around the UK, I've never seen such good debates, engagement with the public at the vigils we've had. The prayers are really working, regardless of how much persecution we get. At some point, there's a tipping point, there's a turning point. And, just like the LGBT, they've just run roughshod over all 50 states. That's what we're going to witness in the UK is a major change your heart, change your mind. It's going to happen at some point. It's a matter of time.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be grateful for. And yes, we had 2 major losses. I would say Kansas last year. That was 3 months after Dobbs. So that was just like, ugh. And then Ohio. I would also say those are just bad examples of a winning formula. It's not like I had a few issues with just how those campaigns were rolled out. If you see the pro-abortion commercials in Kansas and Ohio, you're just like, oh my gosh, like we got to vote yes or whatever it was. It was very confusing. It was very poorly worded. Abortion was removed from a lot of the rhetoric. That's what it's not like, do you want to kill a baby at 40 weeks or not? But of course we'd win that. Even though that's what the bill proposed in Ohio. It's not. It's healthcare. Kansas was using COVID like they're going to bring the mask back, unless you have freedom for healthcare, and freedom for healthcare meant abortion. It was crazy. So, Steve, you said eventually we're going to win one. I think that can be sooner rather than later if we get our act together and get good messaging and get proper wording, and that we're the yes. It definitely helps to be the yes on the referendum. And I think we should go on offense, and we should propose referendums. Our state, will never prevent a physician from giving medical care to a baby who survives an abortion. Our state will, you could make the heartbeat bill. I think that is such a great political starter. And when you're at Thanksgiving dinner and somebody's like, well, what, you don't want 15 weeks? What do you want? You could easily say, look, we could just start with like the heartbeat bill. There were so many prominent, super liberal Democrats in Texas who went for that. It is a brilliant law on the apologetics front. Of course, we want no abortion whatsoever. But if you want a starting point, since all politics is compromised, and my starting point is definitely not 15 weeks, I think that's useless. If you want a starting point, heartbeat is a good place. And I think it's a realistic place too, to use that overused term.
So there's hope on this front. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because it talks about the heartbeat. And you just had so many Democrats say, I don't know. This is too humane for me.
The other thing here is, while we have hope on this front, it's also the case that our success through our mission of 40 Days for Life does not depend on politicians. It does not depend on judges. It does not depend on voters. And so, yes, we need to be aware of these things. We talk about the laws. We talk about the court decisions. We talk about all of this stuff because it directly impacts us. But you know what the vote in Ohio does not affect? It doesn't impact the 75% no-show rate when somebody shows up to pray in front of an abortion facility. You know what the vote in Kansas doesn't impact? It doesn't impact the fact that 45% of the abortion facilities that closed after a 40 Days for Life campaign prior to the Dobbs decision were in blue, liberal, progressive, abortion-friendly states. None of our mission is really touched by that. We still have the same ability, whether you are in Texas or whether you're in California, Massachusetts, New York, Seattle, it doesn't matter. And that's why we've seen abortion facilities close in all those different places. One of the busiest abortion facilities in the state of New York, right in the Bronx, closed this summer. Their business had been just getting more than decimated, and they couldn't stay open. They found donors to prop them open for a couple of extra years, but all it did was buy them time because, as you said, Shawn, it's market-driven now, and the market's going to determine. When there's no market for abortion, abortion facilities close, whether your state is red, blue, or purple.
Which is why I think, the other thing that we should be grateful for is post-Roe, they're going after free speech. We see the buffer zones in the United States. We saw Isabel, our leader in the UK, Robert's friend. She's just been great. She had me over last year for their March for Life. She's been having these thought crimes, apparently, because she's praying in front of an abortion facility. But we should be grateful for her victories and the acquittal of Mark Houck, that happened this year. That is definitely something to be grateful for this Thanksgiving. That could have gone the other way. And you, as a 40 Days for Lifer, should be grateful because he didn't take the deal. And he didn't take the deal because of you. On January 6th at 5:30 in the afternoon, no intimidation from the DOJ whatsoever, they offered him a deal of no prison, no fine. And his wonderful wife, Ryan Marie, said, well, you can take the deal, but don't come home because you'll have sold out every pro-life person who goes out and participates in 40 Days for Life or any other vigil. And he didn't take the deal. And that sounds great now. You know, we're at Thanksgiving and now we're suing the DOJ and it's all this exciting stuff. But when you're in the room and you're like, this could just be over right now if I sign this, or I may go to prison for 11 years. So kudos to him. And he did it for you. And that's why we need to support him. And we are. And through not just prayer, but legal action against the DOJ. That is definitely something to be thankful for. And Steve, speaking of legal matters, just one of the things I'm grateful for, and I know you are as campaign director, because we've had so many little legal problems flare up, is the creation of the Institute of Law and Justice, where we've expanded our legal arm at 40 Days for Life to support our leaders.
It's been really remarkable because we've seen all sorts of persecution. Some of it comes from the government, and Shawn, you addressed that with the Mark Houck case and others that resemble it. So it's great to have them take care of that. But we also have the persecution that comes from the streets, the cases where there's someone out hassling, harassing, causing trouble for local 40 Days for Life participants. Most locations, 99% of locations, it's not an issue, but in some it is. And it's great when the police kind of take care of it. Law enforcement exists to enforce the law, but sometimes they haven't really wanted to. They just kind of want to take the easy route and just, okay, we'll just, there's nothing we can do. They've got free speech too. It's like, they just said they were going to kill me. Is that free speech? Well, they got free speech too. And so now we've got the Institute of Law and Justice that's able to step in, be in cases where it's necessary on the ground to see what is actually taking place, to be able to walk hand in hand with our leaders and our volunteers who are experiencing that sort of persecution. And that legal support is working. It's helping make sure that that the people who need to be held accountable are being held accountable. And beyond that, too, there's also a lot of these strange things that are popping up. The pro-abortion task forces. I think it was New Jersey created a pro-abortion strike force. That's not meant to intimidate, is it? And then, the attacks on like abortion pill reversal, for example, the state of California suing abortion pill reversal providers and our local leaders saying, hey, we're out there advertising and promoting abortion pill reversal with our signs at our vigil. Are we in danger here? And with the Institute of Law and Justice, these wonderful attorneys that we have are able to go in and take a look at the law, take a look at the enforcement mechanisms, take a look at everything that would apply that could possibly put a 40 Days for Life participant at risk, and assess like, yes, it's safe to do this, probably. No, it's not safe to do it, probably. Here's what we recommend. It's really wonderful to be able to take a look at, hey, California leaders, you should know this. And I know the California leaders appreciate it. And I know we've even done it internationally in Canada. And I know we've done it in Washington State. And we've done it all over the place, where the Institute of Law and Justice just helping folks know, okay, we heard about this law, we heard about this regulation, but here's what it means and how it actually will or will not affect you on the sidewalks.
Yeah, it's so needed. And we're very fortunate that we have former DOJ prosecutor. We have so many talented lawyers who are serving our leaders. And speaking of the uncle at Thanksgiving, if you want another positive thing that is sort of a cultural phenomenon, that is the backlash against Pride Month, guys. We forget about that because here we are at Thanksgiving, but that was crazy.
It was, because it seemed like this unstoppable force. They're just rolling. The Dodgers have I've kind of forgot about this entirely. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence out.
How could you forget about them, Steve?
Doing
they don't fry their
shows.
Turkeys. They definitely don't fry the turkey.
They don't fry the turkeys. I think they're eating raw tofu or something like that.
Vegan. Yeah.
Yeah, there's though we can find common ground. They also have no gluten in their Thanksgiving dinner, I'm sure.
We're already coming together this Thanksgiving, to the gluten-free jalapeno rub. Yeah, and then I was obviously not happy that the Astros lost to the Rangers. They didn't lose to the Rangers. That was a beatdown, frankly. But it's cool in the end that the Rangers won the World Series, the only Major League Baseball team not to address, support, acknowledge Pride Month. They decided that as a baseball team, they would focus on baseball.
Looks like it
Shock
worked.
horror. Shock horror.
Shock and horror.
For the
That's gotta be
World Series.
It's got to be something for you to be thankful for, Shawn. It's got to be a nice year where, oh, my favorite baseball team didn't win, but the other team from my state, they won.
Oh, yeah. No, I was rooting for the Rangers.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think we're going to get
great.
Robert's propaganda here about the World Series only being in America. Is that bring it, Robert? That again?
I didn't want to bore you too much on the World Series not being. We've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. But if this wasn't easy, it wouldn't be God's work. And that the challenges that we face. I live in a country where now being pro-life is something that can have you arrested for thinking, for witnessing in public. And if this work wasn't. If it wasn't easy, then what would we be doing? It's the struggles that we have. That's part of the battle for life. It's a spiritual battle between life and death. And we have these beautiful stories in America, which are an inspiration to the world of how pro-life has been winning on the grassroots, which is absolutely incredible. And we need to protect the freedom to protect unborn babies. That's why the Mark Hout case is so important, because if you don't have the right to defend yourselves, to stop the government turning up on your doorstep with guns, to attack pro-lifers, to persecute them. If we don't have legal means to defend ourselves, then we can't witness as best as possible. So that's why we need to protect our mission. And this is hard. This is one of the hardest Christian apostolates that I know of. And, with all this LGBT nonsense, it's encouraging to hear that there's another side to that. There's an end to all the nonsense, that people get bored and tired of this liberal propaganda, and that there is a kickback. So I'm inspired of hearing the stories of baseball teams that didn't support Pride Month, the only one that didn't, and they go and win the series. Congratulations to them. Well done. That's really inspiring and incredible work. So I can tease Americans, but actually some of this stuff is absolutely fantastic. So it is inspirational.
Yeah, and we're seeing so many results, and there's a lot to be grateful for going into Thanksgiving. And Steve, as we close out, why don't you just give some of the stats, some of the results that we have now that the fall campaign is over?
Well, we had close to 500 babies saved during the fall campaign, and that brings us to a new milestone: 24,000 lives saved. It seems like every campaign we're hitting another milestone. We're up to 254 workers who have experienced conversion and left their jobs and begun to walk with Christ. One of the three that left her job during this autumn's campaign was actually the abortionist herself, thanks be to God. Just wonderful, wonderful news. It's great when any abortion worker leaves, but when the one who's actually responsible for doing the killing has a change of heart, that is a particularly great day in heaven and on earth. And we learned of 2 more abortion facilities that have closed their doors and gone out of business during this campaign, actually. That brings us to a total of 147. And thanks be to God, we're closing in. 150 is not far away. And that number seemed a long ways away a couple of years ago. But thanks to Dobbs, thanks to 40 Days for Life, thanks to the folks who just continue to be relentless in their prayer and in their faith, that number continues to increase. So whatever Ohio does, we're still seeing abortion facilities close. And so I think this is just a wonderful year to celebrate some of these milestones. And as I often say, we look at the numbers, and 24,000, it's a statistic, but every one of those saved babies, that's a story that was a devastating story. That was an abortion appointment booked out of despair and heartbreak and every problem in the world. And each of those 24,000, 125 has a happy ending because somebody believed our Lord's promise and went out to pray with the hope that it might make a difference. And it did.
It's so true. It's so true. And, that doesn't even factor in the 75% no-show rate. That's the one that really just gets us up in the morning. And so there's a lot to be grateful for. Don't let Ohio ruin your pro-life Thanksgiving, to say that. There's a lot going on. We said when Roe was overturned, it would get worse before it gets better. And Ohio is part of it getting worse before it gets better, but it is going to get better. And the overturning of Roe was one of the greatest days in American history. And we have a lot to be grateful for. We have a lot to be grateful for this Thanksgiving. And thank you for enduring our fried turkey discussion. Just feel free to email us at podcast@40daysforlife.com, podcast@40daysforlife.com. And I want to ask you guys before we leave, which of the 3 turkeys would y'all actually be willing to eat or want to eat from the description? And well, Jill can put it on the screen. The first one was Tony Chachery's Cajun butter and seasoning. The second one was the butter plus Texas Pete hot sauce plus Slap Your Mama hot. And by the way, Slap Your Mama as a brand is Slap Your Mama because it's so good and she made it. So Slap Your Mama hot. The third turkey, okay, the butter, Texas Pete hot sauce, and Conrico's jalapeno rub and stuffing. And I would like to remind everybody that the last 2 turkeys will also have crushed red pepper inserted in them.
None. I'm turning vegetarian.
What a British wuss, Steve.
I would scarcely be more disappointed if Robert told me he was trans.
I think so. And Robert, he comes over. He likes spicy Mexican food. He likes Papados. I know you like Papados, the Cajun restaurant in Houston. So, Steve, what are you doing?
I'm going to answer that in just a moment because I was feeling badly. We got a wonderful email from Elaine in Florida who gave us lots of feedback on the podcast. And she was one of a couple different people who wrote in asking, like, what about Thanksgiving side dishes? So I was feeling bad about not getting to that in our long banter section, but I think we did answer. I think, Elaine, the side to go with your turkey is hot wings. So
it's a keto. It's a keto Thanksgiving. It's just a turkey with a side of hot wings. Well, I got a little bit of quick time. Something Mary Lisa makes that's excellent. We might as well go here. She's made this for years. She takes fresh cranberries and she found a brown sugar bourbon glaze sauce that you make. And you make the sauce and then it's got bourbon, brown sugar, something else. And then you toss it in the cranberries. You kind of simmer them a little bit. You put them in the oven. You're mixing them obviously the whole time. Then you dump them in a bowl and you refrigerate them. You make them the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and they're served cold and they are immaculate. Bourbon glazed cranberries, and they're fresh cranberries. I mean, this is totally healthy, So there you go. There's a side dish.
I might have that one. Yeah.
I know the listeners have been waiting at the edge of their seat to find out which turkey I take. So I'm going to say I will go with your Oppenheimer turkey, and I'm going to take the leg. That's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for the big old leg and eat it right off the bone.
Excellent suggestion. And I mentally am already planning to do that on Thanksgiving is I want the leg of the jalapeno spicy turkey. So, and my answer is yes. I'm going to have all 3. I'm going to try all 3.
You can't go wrong.
I can't go wrong, baby. I will report back on whether the wings actually happened. I got a feeling they're going to happen, frankly. I got a feeling. So definitely going to do it.
You were left with no choice.
No choice. We had to make the wings. The grease was there. Everybody was there. People were talking. We had to do the wings. We just had to. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Steve. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a great time and be careful. God bless.